Let me know when we're good. Oh, we're recording. Okay.
I'm just going live.
All right. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. This is the Baltimore Chug Aliyah meeting, and we're recording, so anybody who wasn't able to be here at this time will be able to learn from our panelists. I want to say thank you, first of all, to all of our panelists that are with us today. This is Elliot Cahan, Leora Pouchette, who else we have? Yaakov Berger. We'll talk Yehuda Shamroth and Shana Levine-Hefetz, who hopefully will be joining us in a minute. We also want to say thank you to Josh Wander from bringthemhome.org.il, one of our co-sponsors and also our technical assistant in the back. For those of you that saw the flyer, I need to let you know that Alan Friedenberg was not able to join us at the, he was supposed to speak about Beersheba, but if you are on the call because you particularly have questions about Beersheba or you wanted to see his face, I'm happy to put you in touch after the meeting. So here's how it's going to work. I just want to say that tonight's session is co-sponsored by Bring Them Home and also by Partners in Aliyah. And these are both grassroots organizations that started relatively recently in Israel, started by Olim, who are trying to just offer support and encouragement, and in some cases practical advice or spiritual encouragement for anybody who's still outside of Israel who's considering coming. And okay, so here's the way it's going to work. Each of our panelists is going to talk a little bit about where they are, to how you can better understand the communities that they settled in. And since Shana is not yet with us, and we were going to start with her,
I'm here.
She is here? Oh, I'm sorry. Hi. Okay, great. All right. So we're going to start with Shana, who, it's so funny. I'm looking on this call and like 4 of the people on this call are my former colleagues from Baltimore. So I
was thinking that.
Yeah, sort of like having a staff meeting here. Okay, anyway, each person is going to speak for approximately 10 minutes, and I'll be keeping track of the time. And then we'll hopefully have time for a little bit of Q&A. So let's go ahead and start with Shana. Shana, introduce yourself and tell us the area of Israel you're going to be speaking about. And it's yours.
Hi, everyone. Can everyone hear me?
I hear you.
Yes?
I'll hear you.
My name is Shana Levine-Hefetz. We made Aliyah 5 years ago from Silver Spring, and before that, Baltimore. We made Aliyah directly to Neve Daniel. We then moved for 1 year to Yerushalayim and then moved back to Neve Daniel. Neve Daniel is a yeshuv in Gush Etzion. I'm going to try to talk a little bit also about Efrat, which is right across the road from us. It's its own political entity, so it gets a little bit confusing when people mention Efrat and the Gush. Some of the services available to one or the other aren't the same, so I'll try to hit that as well. We made Aliyah with 3 teenagers who are now ages 16, 18, and 19. Our 18 and 19-year-old daughters are both Benot Shirut now, National Service volunteers, and we took in a baby almost 2 years ago. His name is Chagai. So that's a little bit about our family. To tell you a little bit about why we love our area, the first one is definitely the weather. You probably have heard that Israel's had the hottest days in September ever on recorded history the last few days, and one of the things that you see a lot of complaining about in the Olim groups is the weather. Gush Etzion is very high up. Neve Daniel is actually the highest elevation community in all of Israel. There are higher mountains, but there's no one living on them. And because of that, we have the weather of the mountains. And it's really, really pretty here. There are people whose houses don't even have air conditioning. Air conditioning is kind of optional around here. I'm sorry. That is definitely the biggest pro to living in the Gush. You might occasionally see snow here. People told us, bring your sleds, you'll be able to use them. We've been here 5 years, we still haven't used them. But we are waiting for that winter when we get a little bit of snow, because that will be exciting for my kids. But in general, our winters are not exactly to freezing. And the summers are really beautiful and mild, especially in the evenings. Gush Etzion is an area, and this is true for Efrat as well from that perspective, where we have more of a small town feel. People live mostly in houses and yards. It's less busy. It doesn't have that city vibe. If that's what you're looking for, then that's good for you. We were definitely not city people. My kids had never been on a bus before we came to Israel. So that was definitely much more comfortable for them. That's one thing that we really missed when we moved in Yerushalayim, was that kind of quieter small town feel. Also, here is the kind of place where everybody knows your name. That sounds cliche, but even the Arab checkout guys in Rami Levy all know who I am as soon as you walk in. The Makolet guys ask me every time how my dog is doing to see if I need more dog food. There's a certain comfortable community feel here that you don't necessarily find in the cities. Gush Etzion is also known for its excellent educational options. We have a number of elementary schools, middle schools, and high schools available to students. People are welcome to reach out to me personally if they have questions about the schools. Efrat has their own schools. Gush Etzion has their own schools. Until the age of 8th grade, the students are separated by what area they live in versus Efrat versus the Gush. From 9th grade and up, the high schools are shared between Efrat and the Gush, and also many students go to high schools in Yerushalayim and to lots of other places in the area. Our students also all get bused to school, and that's definitely different from the cities. Also, the Yeshuvim in the Gush have more of a sense of community that gets lost in the cities. In Israel, the communities don't revolve around the shuls and the schools as much as they do in the States. And to give you an idea of the type of community we have here, a year and a half ago or so, a week before Pesach, our baby got pneumonia. And we were rushed to the hospital, and we were there until 2 days before Pesach when they sent us home with oxygen. And when I came home, I found my fridge just full of food from different people in the community. It was our first Pesach we were going to be making at home, so we didn't even really have pots and pans. And people dropped off things we can borrow and all kinds of food. And I didn't even know where to start. I said to someone, just make me a list of what's in the fridge so we know what we're eating for Yom Tov. And that was just amazing, knowing that we didn't have to worry about things, that our community would take care of us. Gush Etzion is also very close to Jerusalem. It's 15 minutes from Jerusalem by car. Sometimes obviously traffic makes that worse. And it's a little bit less expensive than Jerusalem. I would say Efrat is a little less expensive than the Yeshuvim in the Gush. And the Yeshuvim, you can get a lot more for your buck than you can in Jerusalem. There's also a lot of Anglos in the Gush, which makes it culturally much easier for people when they come here. As much as we would love to all say that we can speak Hebrew and that makes us Israeli, culturally we're very different. And I like that we can walk into any store and pretty much staff will always have some basic English. I personally speak Hebrew, but I have a lot of friends that moved here and are able to get along without Hebrew. Neve Daniel, just for a minute, about our specific yeshuv, is a Torani yeshuv. Our streets are closed on Shabbos. All of the families here are Shomer Shabbos, and that was something that we were specifically looking for. Once we're moving to Israel, we really wanted to live in an all-religious environment. The Gush, for the most part, is an all-religious environment. We don't have anything like stores or restaurants open on Shabbos in our entire area. We also have a lot of Anglo programming in our yeshuv. Our yeshuv is about 50% Olim. We have a Torah and Cholent program, which is after shul. A different family hosts every week a shir and Cholent, obviously not happening right now because of Corona. We also have our own Olim budget and run cultural events and trips and things like that within our yeshuv. Just for a moment, to be honest, there are some cons about living in the Gush. I've given you the pros. The cons, the biggest one really is just the lack of public transportation that's regular and frequent. We have a bus to Yerushalayim. It's actually gotten much better than when we first moved here 5 years ago. There's now more than one bus line, and we do have a bus to Beit Shemesh as well that links you to the train. But in general, our buses are about every 45 minutes to an hour, not like every 5 minutes when you're living in the cities. Some of the major services are only available in Yerushalayim, things like having to meet with the Misrad HaKlita, or that sort of thing. You would have to go into Yerushalayim to do, but again, Yerushalayim is really close. And so we find that the pros far outweigh the cons, but I feel like everyone should really be aware. In Efrat, they have their own Olim services department as well. Their Olim coordinator is amazing. And so a lot of these supports that I'm about to tell you about in the Gush are available in Efrat as well. Olim supports in the Gush begin with personal support. There are 2 Olim coordinators in the Gush. Actually, there's really 3. 2 primary ones. One is for the Russian speakers and the other one is for everyone else. Her name is Caroline. She's actually a native French speaker, but her English is fantastic and she also speaks Spanish. They're here for everyone from the time people are considering Aliyah to the Gush until when they arrive and for as long as they need help setting things up and for help afterwards. Also, the third person that I mentioned is for people under the age of 35. There's also a young Olim coordinator. Her name is Shoshana. She's a native English speaker, and she's the program coordinator for the 18 to 35-year age group. We also have Benot Shevet in the Gush that work with our children in the schools. And also certain families get Benot Shevet based on their needs for help in the afternoon. I even know one single woman who moved to the Gush and had trouble with Hebrew, so she had a bat shirut that came to her for the first year, helping her understand her mail every week. Gush Etzion has a local Ulpan. The local Ulpan is a smaller private Ulpan, the kind that you pay for and then get reimbursed. It's called Ulpan Max. There's also lots of large Ulpan options in Yerushalayim. You can do both, one after the other, whichever one you'd like to do in that order. We also have a weekly conversational Hebrew classes that run for different levels and in different yeshuvim in the Gush for a very reduced price. It's only 40 shekel a month. And that makes it much easier for the Olim in the Gush to be able to learn Hebrew. The Olim departments try to plan programming for Olim in the area based on what they are looking for, what they need. Sometimes there are parenting courses, cultural events. There was a workshop recently on financial planning because people had requested it, social programming, trips, things like that. We also have the Olim Tafit Ta'asuka Employment Network, which is a network of volunteer mentors who help Olim with networking in their fields, fixing up their CVs, interview tips and practices, setting up businesses, those types of things. So I basically covered everything, I think, in about why we like where we live and what types of services are available to you when you come here. There is a great document that has been put together by the Olim department, and it's a work in progress that gives you information about each different yeshuv within Gush Etzion and links to people to speak with in English about those yeshuvim and those services. So I'm going to share that document in the chat so that everyone can see it. And I'm available by email or WhatsApp after the session if anyone has specific questions about the Gush. I'm also going to send to you in the chat the email addresses for Caroline, who is our main contact for English-speaking Olim, as well as Shoshana for under ages 35 and under.
Great. Shana, thank you very much. Okay, so we're going to turn it over.
Don't hear you well, Rivka.
You can't hear me. How about now? Is that better?
No, that's actually worse.
Can somebody like wave or something?
No, put it. Rivka, can you hear me? Rivka, put back your earplugs.
Okay, how about now?
Much better.
Okay. So no, we won't use the headphones. Okay, Shana, thank you very much for that. You'll look in chat and you'll see the email addresses, the contact information that Shana wants for you to have access to. Also, if you don't get them now and you need them after, you can email me or contact me on Facebook and I will get this information to you as well. My email address, if you're near a pen, would be helpful, is Rivkah, RIVKAH30@gmail.com. I'll try to repeat that after. We're going to turn it over now to Yaakov Berger, who did not come from Baltimore, but he is from the municipality of Jerusalem, and he's going to talk more globally about what's available, what kind of services and assistance are available. And then we will switch to Leora, who actually came from Baltimore and lives in Jerusalem. So this little slice of the program will be very Jerusalem-centric. And Yaakov, you are up.
Hi, welcome everybody. Thank you to the sponsors, organizers, and most of all the participants. We're really excited that you guys are considering Aliyah. And I work in the Jerusalem municipality as an Aliyah coordinator. And I want to introduce you all to something that we call Jerusalem the Practical. The Jerusalem that you guys know, everyone here, I'm sure most of you have been to Jerusalem at some point. And being here as a visitor, as a student in a yeshiva or a seminary or having family here, it's different than the practical side. So I want to just sort of talk about a few of the practical sides, both to share with you what Jerusalem as a city has to offer, and specifically what services we provide through the municipality to make the transition to Jerusalem as easy as possible. First of all, just when we talk about the practical side of living in Jerusalem, being a resident of Jerusalem, it's about finding the right community in the right neighborhood, both socially and religiously. It's a big deal because Jerusalem's such a big city, so you really don't make Aliyah to Jerusalem as a city. You make it to your specific community, and that is the block you live on, the shul you're able to attend, the schools that are nearby, the social and religious atmosphere around you. It varies greatly from neighborhood to neighborhood, and it's important to know them all. So I'd say Jerusalem really offers a wide variety, and we sit and we'll do consultation with our people who are interested in Jerusalem and talk with them, talk through the different neighborhoods, talk about their top priorities and how to find the right balance in the neighborhood that can provide the most of their needs. Practically speaking, we're talking about housing. You got to know the housing market. That's something about Israel in general. It's not specific to Jerusalem. It's a whole new world. It's a lot of things to learn very quickly. And we try to help with that transition. School education is probably one of the single most important topics for families. I have a colleague named Yisrael Cohn. I'll send you his contact information as well at the end of this. He's an expert in the education system here. He'll sit and also go through, find the right schools for each of your children, both socially, religiously, and of course, educationally. We worked with the Misrad HaChinuch, the local education department. We're able to get a vada. If you need a committee to help us get into special schools, we can do that before Aliyah through the Jerusalem municipality. We can actually register your children for school as soon as you're approved for Aliyah, and you don't have to wait until you're here and on the ground. Again, making sure the kids are in the right school that's organized in advance, that when you show up, it's already taken care of. Those are the type of things we provide. We've done workshops and we'll continue doing workshops. At this point, they're virtual, as is this meeting. On just the system, learning what the system is, when do you need to, who the different, there's so many different positions in the schools that don't exist in America here. So to understand how to navigate it, how to advocate for your kid within the school system. And to understand, because it's not just a new language in terms of the linguistic language, it's also a new cultural language. And you really feel that in the educational system, and we do everything in our control to help that ease that transition. Employment is another huge topic for most Olim. Their financial viability here is really dependent on finding the right job. We provide support. I sit one-on-one consultations with people to help them get oriented to the job hunt. Again, the cultural adjustment, we find that Olim generally, the language is obviously a big barrier. The culture, they don't know the culture of learning a new culture of the job market. It takes a lot of time and patience and learning and starting a new network. It's for many people, it's really all about mid-career change, trying to sort of start over again and reboot and learning what is the process, what is realistic for right now, and what puts me on the trajectory towards the right job that I want in 5 years from now. So I could first sort of learn the system, learn the language, and transition back to functioning and working on the same high level that you were in the States. That's something that we also lend a hand with. Jerusalem, there are actually 18 community centers throughout Jerusalem, kind of like JCCs, but for their local communities. 18 of them have a neighborhood Aliyah coordinator, specifically there for the Olim in the neighborhood. And they have different local programming. They have volunteer lists, and sort of, especially through this recent times where new Olim are spending the first 2 weeks in quarantine, the volunteers have been instrumental in helping Olim sort of have a smooth transition and make sure their basic needs are taken care of when they can't leave the house to take care of themselves. In the past 6 months, we just launched a program called Shiluvim. It's about it's a community integration program. The idea is to socially match up new Olim, whether singles or families, with other Olim who have been here longer, or native Israelis that speak their language, and sort of just giving people a head start and making their first set of friends. A lot of Shabbos meals, and sort of helping create those first social connections. We're also doing that through the schools now, so you can make a host family through the kids in the class. And the idea is to help the new Olim integrate upon arrival, and sort of just helping make that first connection, greasing the wheels. Beyond that, our department, Jerusalem, many municipalities throughout, as Shana mentioned, in English with Sion, they're also Aliyah coordinators. Many of the popular Aliyah destinations have a department of Aliyah with special local municipal coordinators. And that's what we do here. We accompany through the whole technical process of Aliyah, both the bureaucratic and technical side, and the sort of more personal side of how am I going to find my needs in Israel? How am I going to sort of acclimate to Jerusalem? How am I going to find my place in a community, in the right neighborhood, at the right schools, in the right job situation? That, and as close to 10 minutes as we can squeeze it in, that's the main service we like to provide, that we provide here.
Yaakov, how do people get in touch with you if they want to know you?
The most important part. Here I am, right as soon as I finish, I will send in the group chat phone number for myself. I'm available on WhatsApp, in addition to email addresses for myself and Yisrael, who I mentioned does educational consultation. In addition to a couple of links to our website, to our municipal website. One is an interactive map on which you could see different services available in each neighborhood. It's really cool. You just click on one thing and it comes up with pins all over, whether it's a mikveh or the school or the shuls or bomb shelters or ulpans, where to learn Hebrew. You really can see just the whole layout of the city and local services. And the Aliyah page, so you can see sort of the broader range of the Aliyah services we provide in Jerusalem. I'm happy to be in touch with any one of you. Do not be bashful. Feel free to send an email, send a WhatsApp message. And we're happy to accompany you all the way to Jerusalem.
Great, thank you so much. Thank you very much. Okay, a couple of things. First of all, if you're on the call and you don't mind starting your video so that we can see your face, it's much more pleasant for the speakers to look at faces instead of just little black boxes. And we're just happy to see other Jewish faces. That's just a really nice thing. Okay, so while we're on thank you for those of you that turned your cameras back on. Okay, and now we're gonna continue with the Jerusalem theme and speak with Leora, or Leora is gonna speak with us about her specific community. And she claims there are no cons to her community, so we'll have to see if that's really true. Leora, the floor is yours.
I'm fortunate because Yaakov just talked about the boring stuff. So I get to talk about the good stuff. I live in Baka. Baka is a neighborhood in southern Yerushalayim. If you are familiar with Talpiot, we border Talpiot, we border the Emek Rephaim neighborhood and area. He mentioned, I'm going to refer to a few different things. I did not move with a family. I did not move with a partner. I am single. And I live according to, I will say, with all due respect, the area and nefesh b'nefesh in a dead zone. Because you're either a young family or a family until the age of 45 or 50, or you're a retiree from the age of 65 on. And I would dare say that here in our neighborhood, the Minhal Kehilati, the community center or the local council location in Baka, does have an Aliyah coordinator who predominantly seems to work with the French community. We also have a large French population of Olim in this particular area. But I think that the shul that I belong to, Keilat Nitzanim, has either filled a void or therefore it's not as needed in that way in the Minhal Kehilati. And I think that when Shana talked about being in a community, in Neve Daniel, in that sense of community, indeed, to be in a large city like Yerushalayim, which is lehavdil, like being in New York. So there are pockets of communities. To my good fortune or my determination, people who meet me in the last few months and say, how long have you been here? And I say, 2 years. May was 2 years. They said, are you kidding me? But you're so involved. And I think that there was a subconscious understanding that being alone, I had to I had to connect myself to something that made me know this is where I belong. So even though it's a big city, in the neighborhood, it's easy to become part of a community. You go to the store, you walk on Derech Beit Lechem, you meet people that you know. You're out somewhere, you meet people that you know. So it's not an anonymous existence. So I made that note, as Shoni, she said, community, I can say it's a community neighborhood. It's a lot of Anglos, a number of Baltimoreans, which is very nice. We have what we call, through the shul, we've started a Israel in English book club. And the goal of the book club is to read Hebrew books that are translated into English in order to allow for a better understanding of the culture. Because Yaakov mentioned the culture shock, and indeed, I grew up with an Israeli mother. So I have a little bit of a sense. It's not America. My development, they call it a project. You have to get that out of your head also. We're 8 buildings here in Baca, and there are a number of residents who are expecting things to be run the way they would be run in the States. And the hardest thing is to try and help them understand it's not America. And as much as we would like there to be certain characteristics that we've enjoyed of convenience and customer service, accountability even, I think that learning that that's not going to necessarily eventuate can take a lot of the anxiety out of it. Now, I'll tell you that geographically, this particular neighborhood is fantastic if you don't have a car or if you don't want to have a car. I have a brother who lives in Beit Shemesh, so I do have a car and I do travel places, but I'm here just over 2 years. So my car I got in July, 2 years. I have not even I think I have 7,000 kilometers on it. I think that's 5,000 miles or something like that in 2 years. With a 10-minute walk, anything you want. I tell people, what do you need? Bread? I'll tell you where to go. A bathtub, I'll tell you where to go. A car, I'll tell you where to go. Clothes, well, not a problem. Paint, pottery, everything. So it's a very accessible location. It is not a particularly crowded as other places are. I think if you go to places like Ramat Eshkol and Sanhedrin Morchevet on the other side of town, there's what's the word now? It's gone out of my head. I can't think of the word. The density. The density is so much more. Here, there's fewer big buildings, although they are going up every moment. There's a lot of construction going on here in the extended neighborhood. People complain about it. I say, Yerushalayim habnuya ba al cheshbon mishehu. That is that a rebuilt Yerushalayim comes at somebody's expense. Right now, in a few different things near me, it's at my expense. So 7 o'clock in the morning, the jackhammers begin. I'm not going to necessarily get into schools. I can tell you that the Anglo kids attend a mixture of 4 or 5 different schools predominantly, not exclusively. There are many who go to other institutions and that, but there are the Anglo schools. If you are somebody who doesn't need to work and is looking for ways to be busy and things to learn from that point of view here also, if you are a woman, we are walking distance to Matan. And then in general, there is Pardes. There is the OU Center. You hop on a bus, you're 4 stops away. There is the AACI, is a 5-minute walk from here. That's the American Association of Americans and Canadians in Israel. They have a number of fantastic resources and activities. 20-minute walk if you want to go slowly because it's uphill from the Tayelet. I have a massage therapist who lives in Arnona. Arnona, Talpiot, they blend into each other. They've renamed part of it. And when I drive home from her place, I stop at a traffic light. Rivka's going to smile. I stop at a traffic light. And the traffic light is the view of what you see from the Tayelet, from the promenade. So you sit at a red light here in Yerushalayim and you're looking at the old city. Now for me, it never gets boring. For me, the fact that I drove during the Seger, when we were in lockdown, I would take my car out once a week. And I drove up past the La Rome Hotel, La Rome the Inbal, past the King David and the David Citadel around the corner, past Shar Yafo, and down the hill and back onto Derech Hebron and home. It never gets tired. Although I will tell you, I know what it's like to drive on Yom Kippur, because there were no cars, there were no people. It was a little unusual that really nobody was out. But there is, if the timing was different, I would be sitting in my kitchen. You would see from my kitchen that I see Shar Yafo, I see the walls of the old city, I see the tower of Har HaTzofim. What'll I tell you? It's magic. Cons, anything that I can think of as a con, you put it as, okay, so there's noise at 7 o'clock in the morning, so there's dust, so there are loud bus drivers sometimes, and there are all these things. But to me, first of all, that's anywhere in the country. That's the nature. I'll close with, I think I'm just looking on my notes. I'm gonna, one of the things, about a quarter of the population of this neighborhood is Olim. So I think they say that it's about 30,000 in the greater Baka neighborhood, and 8,000 or so, 7,000 to 8,000 are Olim. There are shuls in this neighborhood that are predominantly, not exclusively, but predominantly frequented by English speakers. Nitzanim is a big, very, very popular one. Yael, Ramban, Yedidya, Shir Chadash, Shir Chadasha, there's, you name it. But here's what I leave you with. I leave you with this insight, that the best thing about Israel is that everybody treats you like family. And the worst thing about Israel is that everybody treats you like family. If anybody has specific questions, I'll say also that if you're somebody who doesn't have to work, the choice of where to volunteer is vast. And that in itself can be a headache, because you have to make a decision. What might I be interested in doing? But I'm also happy to answer any questions. Thank you for the opportunity.
You're muted again.
There you go. Now we hear you. Now we don't.
Unmute yourself. Rivka, you need to unmute yourself.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay. All right, Leora's email is in the chat for those of you that want to be in touch with her. Josh, I just want to give you a heads up that Elliot is coming next, and at some point he has a map that he wants to show, so he'll let us know when. Elliot, can you see the share screen button at the bottom in green on your screen?
Yeah, I know how to do it. Just Josh, let me, if you'll let me be able to do that at a certain point. Okay. Josh, now you're muted.
No problem.
Great, thank you. Oh, okay. Rivka, we didn't hear your introduction. But first of all, I want to thank Rivka and Josh and the sponsors for putting this together. One of the things that you realize by going forth is that all the things that you forgot and quickly have to take notes. And also one of the challenges of going after Shana and Lior is that I have personally a very soft spot for the Gush. I spent a summer in 1984 working on a kibbutz, which is no longer a kibbutz Surim, in the Gush. And so I have a fondness for being there, especially the weather. And of course, I learned in Yeshivat HaKotel with Lior's brother, and who doesn't have a soft spot for Yerushalayim? So it's hard now to maybe a little bit move to the suburbs and try to sell it. I will say this, what I guess if anybody on the call kind of knows Eileen and I, or me and Eileen and our family, they know that if you're here, you've already done more research into making Aliyah than we did. Our story goes like this. We were on vacation in 2004. We were here for a bar mitzvah, 11-day trip. And on day 7, we turned to each other and we said, why aren't we here yet? And that quickly turned into a 4-day pilot trip. And we happened to run into a friend of mine from Yeshiva who was moving from Beit Shemesh to Modin. And we said to him, you know, why are you moving to Modin? And he gave us sort of the standard, I guess, what the sell that everybody gives you when you're thinking about Modin. And so what is it about Modin? What's attractive? Well, number one, it's centrally located. It's, when you look at the map, it's pretty much right in the middle between Jerusalem and Tel Aviv. Even though that what's changed, one of the other things, big selling points, is that it's more affordable than Tel Aviv or Jerusalem. Now, housing prices have gone up. It's still the case, all right? It still remains true. One of the big things that we found attractive, now again, we moved here in 2000. We made Aliyah in 2004. Modin was settled in about 1996. So the city was about 8 years old at the time. And we were very much like the idea of being part of something new, of being pioneers. And you know, when you come to a place in Israel, we're you know, let's say you would go to Jerusalem or to a Tel Aviv, you know, you run into people are from there, their whole family's there. There's 7 generations of people from Jerusalem. And when you come to Modin, everybody is an Olen in a way, okay? There's no one from here. Everybody's new. So collectively, if you're making Aliyah, or if you're Sabra, you're from somewhere else. And that gives a sense of building something, of being part of something. And you know, even though today, okay, we fast forward 16 years and Modin is much more mature than it was back then, there's still something very new about it. There's still something about building it. And I think that when, I think Leora and Shana both made this comment about when you look at a community, you look at a place to live, you look at communities and you attach yourself to, you have to realize that when you go to that city, that you're going to be part of different communities. So like here in Modin, as applies, I think, to other places, right? When you move to your street or your neighborhood, you will be part of your local house, you know, whatever, let's say your apartment building, there's a community there. Your children's school will be a community. Your shul will be a community. You will be part of a bigger Anglo community. You will be part of a religious Anglo community. You will be part of a religious community. So there are all these different communities that you will connect with, and that will make the city smaller. I mean, again, today Modin is a city of about almost 100,000 people, 10% of whom are Olim. And I just wanted to show that, I guess I will show share my screen now, if I'm able to. Josh?
I thought I gave permission for everybody to share. Is it not working?
It's not working.
I'm not sure how to do that. If you know how to do it, you can either walk me through it or.
If it's not, actually, I can send this out later, but as well, I can send out a map of the. I can send out a map, but there. One of the questions came up, or where do Olim live? Where the majority of Olim live in Modin, and they're Olim Anglo speakers all over the city, but the primary neighborhoods are what we would call Buchman. Now, actually, the neighborhoods have changed. I'm going to use old names, but Buchman or Hashfatim or Moriah are the newer names. There's
I
also
just made you a
Mississauga.
co-host. Try now.
Okay, sorry. Okay, can everybody see that?
Yes, it's up.
Okay, so here you have, this is one of the maps that I'm going to show. Here you have Modin broken down into a bunch of different neighborhoods. So here's what we call Hashvatim. All the streets in this neighborhood are named after Shvatim, but this also goes by Buchman. So this is Hashvatim, Moriah. This is probably one of the largest concentrations of English speakers. What's unique about this neighborhood is that there are a lot of single family homes, or what you would call like du mishpachti, or like in Baltimore, what did you call them? Like you have houses that are like sort of next to each other, not row houses, but two houses kind of next to each other. Mississauga, where Mitch Ackerson lives and which I'm very close to, is also known as Givatsi. There's a good portion of Anglos there. Some of the newer neighborhoods are, this is called Avnei Chen, where there are probably younger Olim, younger meaning with small families. There's also one apartment complex that seems to have a very large concentration of seniors. There are two new neighborhoods. One's called Hatzipurim. This is really within the last year or so that's been built and that has been occupied. And Nofim is another new neighborhood. Okay, so again, people are all over, but those are sort of the main areas. And I can always go. If people have more questions, I can always go into more more detail. I think also one of the other points that I wanted to make. Let's just want to show another map. This other map, and again, I can send this out, but you just get a sense of what the city looks like. One of the things that really jumps out at you is green. Okay, Modin is the first completely planned city in Israel, and that has it's good and bad. But 50% of the city is set aside as green space. And coming from Baltimore, where we had a hard time finding a place for our kids to play, it was really important to us that there'd be parks all over the place. I mean, and there are, and it's amazing. This is a city that has a lot for kids. When I think actually I'm jumping ahead here, but one of the questions was, what kind of activities are there for kids? When I posted this to our Modin on Facebook, I got so many answers. It seems like we have every imaginable activity that you would want for your child available here. From I'll just read off these things. In terms of youth groups, we have Bnei Akiva, we have Sofim, we have art, all kinds of art programs, music, theater, basketball, soccer, swimming, tennis, judo, karate, capoeira, squash, sewing, ballet, jazz, hip hop, break dancing, tricking, biking, football, American football, netball, volleyball, you name it, we have it. So I think that in terms of kids, in terms of youth, there's a lot to do here. One of the other things that we found attractive about Modin, that we thought that we were moving to a place where everybody, we went to Shumray, and we liked the fact that Shumray was a very diverse crowd, and we liked the fact that Modin is a very diverse place in terms of its population. You have people who are not religious. You have people who are religious. You do not have Haredim here, and we like that. But I think that's also something that you need to know. Overall, the population is 25% religious. Everybody's asking about a car. Do you need a car? You don't need a car. And I think the answer to that is really is where you are in life. If you have kids, if you don't have kids, where you're living, okay, whether you're going to be living, how much you anticipate going out of the city to Jerusalem, Tel Aviv. We have a robust public bus system to Jerusalem, to Tel Aviv. If you ask people here, and again, I posted this on, I asked this on our Modin Facebook page, and there's a big argument about the quality of our public transportation system, especially the inner public transportation system. But we also have 2 train stations. We will be having a train to Jerusalem at some point. So I think, again, it really just depends on where you are in life. We found that with kids and having, we work outside of Jerusalem, we needed a car. There are people who certainly get by without a car. So yeah, I think it's something, again, that you really have to know where you are in life, and you have to talk to other people. Again, we have, we're not the only people from Baltimore who made Aliyah. Mitchell Agerson is also on this call. I also think that, there's a lot, somebody asked about seniors. There's a lot here for seniors. There's a lot of volunteerism. This is a city that takes a lot of pride in its sense of volunteerism. It's a way that you can connect communities. I personally volunteered for the police for a number of years, and I found that it was a way to be able to connect with non-religious people, and to really break down barriers. And I thought that was a very meaningful thing. And are there 2-bedroom apartments available for rent? They're supposed to be in the new central part of the city, but I don't know more about that. Let me just see if there's anything else. I just made a comment about what's everyday life like in Modin, and I said that once you get used to it, it's not that different than everyday life anywhere else, except that you live in Israel and not Baltimore. And what's kind of beautiful, I think, about living in Israel is that we're all on the same calendar, right? We all drop our kids off at the same time to school. We all go shopping around the Chagim at the same time, right? Everything's connected to the Jewish calendar, and that's a beautiful thing. At the same time, it's, we are living the same day-to-day life. I mean, but there are these moments where it really hits you, and you look up, and here you get to see the mountains into Jerusalem, and that's something that you can't. It's something that it never grows old. And when you're driving up to Jerusalem, I used to work in Jerusalem, and you'd sit in traffic. You'd say, I'm sitting in traffic. I sat in traffic on the Beltway. Now I get to sit in traffic and look at the hills of Jerusalem, and that's really something very special. I think, I don't know if I've taken my 10 minutes or not, but I'll kind of leave it there.
Great. Thank you so much. Elliot, can you, and maybe Mitchell also, can you put your emails in the chat so that people who have follow-up questions? We're waiting for our last speaker. She's juggling a whole bunch of things. I'm waiting for her to come to open up her camera. But in the meantime, I want to tell you one of the things that a Chug Aliyah can do for you is wherever in Jerusalem, wherever in Israel you're thinking about, whatever community you're considering, chances are one of us knows somebody, an Anglo who lives there. I see who just is here and almost ready. So if there's a community that you're interested in that we haven't covered today, you can be in touch with one of us, and we will try to network for you so that you can get answers to questions that you have about communities that you might be considering that we couldn't cover. We're going to turn it over to Yehuda Shamroth, who's going to talk about Ramat Beit Shemesh. She's probably the most vatika, the one who's been here the longest, I think, of all of our panelists. And Josh, you can unmute her. Oh, she's good. All right, Yehudis, you are on, and I'm putting the timer on for 12 minutes.
Okay. Hi, can you hear me? Okay, great. Hi, I'm Yehuda Shamroth. Thank you so much for inviting me to be part of your panel. I live in Ramat Beit Shemesh. Right now, I happen to be juggling, as Rivka says, an activity that I haven't done in so many months. Brought me to tears. I'm at a Fabrengen for women in Yerushalayim. I can show it to you on my way out the door right now. I don't want to disturb, but there's a lot of women here, socially distanced, giving over Torah for Chai Elul. And again, very tearful for me because this is one of my favorite things to do in Israel. There's so many activities to nourish your neshama here, including going to women's activities. So here we are, and I'm going to show you actually if I can turn around. No, I'm not good at this. Oh yeah, here we are. I'll show you this beautiful little place. And women having a farbrengen. Okay, so I'm here too, but I'll turn it around again. And I'll tell you about Ramat Beit Shemesh. Right now I'm in Katamon, this really way out place in the park. It's beautiful. Okay, there's about 30 of us here. Okay, so I made Aliyah in 2001 with my husband and 3 little kids. I was actually so against it. I was crying my eyes out the door leaving Baltimore. I had the most beautiful community ever. I had the best Rabbi Rebbetzin, Rabbi Menachem Goldberger in Rocha. I had so many friends. They all became our family. I was a convert, my husband Balchuva, so we needed family. We needed Jewish family. He was from South Africa, so he really had no one in Baltimore. In any case, he had this idea to make Aliyah, follow his brothers who came from South Africa, one after the other. And they kind of found our place for us in Ramat Beit Shemesh. We didn't choose it. And it was a little bit of a ghost town at the time with no trees and dirt roads and one grocery store. And I was crying, like I said, because I thought, what am I doing leaving my beautiful community for? In addition to that, I knew we had everything on a silver platter. I mean, to have success with Aliyah, you don't really need everything that I had. I had portable jobs. We were going to go back and forth to America. I was a nurse. My husband's a doctor. I'm a nurse anesthetist. My kids were real little. We had tons of family. We could afford to buy a place. And we had an instant community to go to. So, I mean, really, to say no to something like that would have been crazy. So I did reluctantly say yes to it. And within a few months, I said to my husband, why didn't you bring me here 10 years ago? I love this place so much. My neshama is soaring ever higher. And so that was the rest is history, as they say. But what I love about Ramat Beit Shemesh, it has grown and grown and grown by leaps and bounds. It was not always the ideal community because it was a much more Haredi for our liking. Not that there's anything wrong, but we just didn't really quite fit in at first. My kids also had special needs of one degree or another. It was very difficult to find schools. There were two choices of schools. So my kids went to school, one in Ramat Beit Shemesh, one in Beit Shemesh, and one in Jerusalem, 3 children. And they all went to those schools for all the years. And it went like that. They changed a few times, but not too often. The most special needs child got the best care. So if you ever have any questions about this, feel free to contact me. The one with the most needs got the best care. The ones with the least needs, they said, oh, the Ethiopian kids need and the Russian kids need. You have two parents who can get a tutor. So the truth is our kids did fine. Fast forward to now, from 2001 until 2020, my son was in the Army in a high special forces unit. Am I too loud? Okay, sorry, I'm too loud. My 2 daughters served as Sheirut Lumi. I have a daughter now, a youngest daughter who's married to an Israeli, so we've arrived. But we love our community very, very much. It's changed and grown. There's a place for everybody. There's a place for young families. There's a place for elderly people, the most very, very active elderly community I've ever seen. They do Tiolim before COVID, of course, but they go everywhere. They have Rabbi with barrel wine runs around with them. They do all kinds of wonderful things. We have housing, just building everywhere. It's unbelievable. And they're sold out. There's not even any places really available right now. And I can tell you the prices of the apartments have tripled. We paid $235,000 for our beautiful apartment. And now it's like 3 times that amount for the similar apartment. And I'm not trying to discourage you, except that, but you can see that the appreciation in property is amazing here, very amazing. We have a lot of activities for every age group. We have great schools now, so many choices, so many therapists, so many wonderful people you can go to for evaluations, for therapy, for all kinds of things. I had to kind of change my career. I couldn't give anesthesia here as a nurse. So I traveled back and forth for 18 years, 4 times a year, which was not easy. But instead, what I did too is I reinvented myself and I went back to school and became a doctor of Chinese medicine. So now actually what I am is the nurse that does acupuncture. And that's a beautiful career for myself here in Israel. I'm loving every minute of it and have a very busy practice, doing very well, combining Western and Eastern medicine. So there's room for everybody too. If you want to open up a shop of hair cutting or selling tablecloths or acupuncture or art therapy, speech therapy. As there's still lots of them. There's so many people moving here that there's room for everybody to get a job in whatever your career choice is. It's not so easy sometimes. You really have to know the language in some degrees or some areas. I still don't know the language very well, and my kids are still annoyed at me that I constantly having them translate for me, but thanks to Google Translate, I'm doing a whole lot better now. And most of my patients come to me and speak in English. I want to say that I go to Yerushalayim several times a week, Kever Rachel once a week, Mars Machpelah, just because I can. I go to Kever Yosef just because I can. And I organize busloads of people and we go places. And, again, I can't wait till this COVID is over. It's the most painful thing for me because I do a lot of chesed for soldiers, for Chayalim, especially Chayalim Bodidim. So I can keep you very busy if you come to Ramat Beit Shemesh with chesed activities. And also I love to show people around. I love to show you where to shop. Right now, that one grocery store has grown to 3 malls. It's just an amazing place, and I love it now. And I hear fireworks in the background. So if there's anything else you want to know, just please feel free to ask. And thank you for having me on your beautiful Aliyah program. And I wish you all the best and the safest klita and Aliyah. And please come because we need you here. We want you here. And the Geula Shalema is right around the corner, and we need you here to complete it. Thank you, Rivka.
Thank you, Yehudis. Okay, so that's it for our prepared speakers. We have one more little special thing. I really encourage you, if you haven't been following in the group chat, because there's a lot of really interesting stuff going on and resources and so forth, ways to connect with our panelists and with one another. And we're going to just go out with a little bit of inspiration from Josh Wander's project, Bring Them Home. Josh, you ready?
Every time I think of you, every day I long for you. Anticipation grows for you to come. 2,000 years is way too long for me to hear your holy song and your roots returning back to where they started from. The world's crashing down all around. Your dream is here, you're homeward bound. It's the call of our historic destiny. A place that welcomes young and old, fulfilling words so long foretold. Israel belongs to us eternally. Ancient roads call out your name, my holy places do the same. It's clear the time is now to come back to your land. My olive trees and beaches white, reminding you our future's bright. In Israel, united we'll stand. Jewish nation, come back home. You are no longer on your own, living life as strangers in a strange land's not for you. Pack your bags and board your flight. For Aliyah, the moment's right. The time has come, your heart knows it's true. Every time I think of you, every day I long for you. anticipation grows for you to come. 2,000 years is way too long for me to hear your holy song and your roots returning back to where they started from. The world is crashing down all around. Your dream is here, you're homeward bound. It's the call of our historic destiny. A place that welcomes young and old, fulfilling words so long foretold. Israel belongs to us eternally. Ancient roads call out your name, my holy places do the same. It's clear the time is now to come back to your land. My olive trees and beaches white, reminding you our future's bright. Israel, united will stand. Jewish nation, come back home. You are no longer on your own. Living life as strangers in a strange land is not for you. Pack your bags and board your flight. For Aliyah, the moment's right. The time has come. Your heart knows it's true.
Okay, so I just want to say thank you to all of our panelists and to Josh Wander, who's both a sponsor and also helping us behind the scenes. There's a lot of questions that people are sending me privately about finding out what's next. The truth is, I have no idea. I'm sort of winging this. There are a number of resources that have cropped up, including Partners in Aliyah, and Bring Them Home, and a few other similar organizations. And it doesn't make sense, I think, for us to start yet another organization or another Facebook page or another mailing list. But what I would encourage you to do is, if you're not already plugged into the existing networks of Olim or prospective Olim, be in touch with me. My email and my WhatsApp are on the group chat. Be in touch with me and I will connect you to these other groups. And then, of course, any of our panelists are available to you. And remember the offer that if there's a community you're interested in that we did not cover today, we are happy to try to find you somebody there who speaks your language and would be very happy to introduce you to their community and answer any questions that you have. I just want to wish everybody a Shana Tova. May this be your last year in Chutz La'aretz, and we look forward to seeing you here. Thank you so much, everybody. Laila Tov, or Tzorayim Tovim. See, Leora, I said something in Hebrew. Bye.